Why radio advertising is better than TV. I'm throwing down the gauntlet. Actually, yeah, okay, full disclosure, this is going to be a little bit biased, but there are a few things that are very, very advantageous to radio and much more so over television, just so you're aware of them. Not to mention, I like radio, but that's beside the point. So let's get to it. By the time this video is over, we're going to go over a few differences between radio and TV, and I hope you'll see that a few of these play very well into your hand. And if you do want to pursue radio, don't forget these are behind you. And let's go over a couple things like, some technicalities of it, some unique differences that only radio has, and then we'll go over one more thing just to make sure, is radio really right for you? Well, let's get started. One of the key elements about radio and television, first of all, let's look at TV. Notice how during the day, you start your morning and they probably have, let's start with the major networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, all those guys. The major networks, they all start with some type of a morning show. They'll have 2 or 3 different things going on. It'll last for a couple hours, and then they'll get into their midday programming. Their midday programming, I remember when I was a kid growing up, a lot of that happened to be soap operas. I don't know if it's still, soap operas and game shows. Those were the big things during the day. I assume that formula hasn't changed, but I don't watch a lot of daytime TV anymore. And then in the evening, you had your news, and then it went into the primetime lineup. And that could be anything from dramas to comedies to situational comedies to all kinds of stuff going on, whether it was cops, firemen, or doctors. Those seem to be the biggies. And then comedies could be just about anything. So the way that day is structured, notice that the audience changes throughout the day. In fact, the audience probably changes from show to show. Your daytime viewer who's going to be watching either game shows and or soap operas might not be into some of the other shows that are later on in the day, and vice versa. Maybe your evening person doesn't like the daytime lineup, whatever the case may be. So the audience throughout the TV day changes, it ebbs and flows, and you may have somebody completely different 1 hour than what you get 2 to 3 hours later. You never know. Well, for the show, you know. But for a radio station, when you pick a format, they're going to play that music or be that style of talk radio throughout the day. 24 hours of broadcasting is probably going to be related, similar. It's all going to cater to that particular demographic. And the great thing about that is when you start buying your schedules, when it comes to radio, you can buy the whole station. You can buy the entire 24-hour time slot. Whereas TV, if you want to stick with one particular demographic, you're going to have to bounce around the dial. You're going to have to bounce around the station to pick the shows that that particular demographic is watching. And in fact, you might even have to go to a different network, to a different channel in order to pick up your ideal customer throughout the day. So not only could you be dealing with 2, 3, 4 TV stations, different day parts, different shows throughout the day, with radio, you've got one station that is highly focused to the market, and you want to pick the market that matches your buyer's demographic. Very easy, very simple to buy radio over TV. And remember, one of the key elements to advertising, not just radio or TV, but advertising in general, is repetition. The more often you see an ad or hear an ad, the more likely it is to become part of your memory. For example, how many times have you heard, ba-da-ba-ba-ba? Who is that? Seriously, it's McDonald's. Of course it's McDonald's. You've heard it a million times over the last 15 years. Even my girls are 11 and 13, and they even get this. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. Yes, Alka-Seltzer. We've heard that. It's ingrained in our psyche. It's probably genetic now. That's probably why my girls know it. Because I know they've never heard it, or at least I don't think they have. But they know it because they've heard it plenty of times. They've heard it enough to know what that song is. So if we're trying to go for repetition because of its effectiveness, what you really want to shoot for is reach and frequency. They add up together and you end up on the radio with time spent listening. Reach is how many people are listening at any given time. Frequency would be how many times while they're listening do they hear your ad. So what we want to do is we want to maximize that frequency number, and the way to do that is find the radio station, find the format that has the highest time spent listening, or TSL. And in the nature of TV, you're naturally probably going to be changing the channel every 30 minutes to an hour. If you want to see comedies, you don't have the channel. ABC, NBC, CBS don't have the comedy lineup. Even Comedy Central, there are times when you're going to be on it or you're going to bail. You're going to come back, you're going to bail. But when it comes to radio, when you pick the format, that is probably going to be your listening choice throughout the day. Now, you may have 2 or 3 of the same format, especially when it comes to the top 40 or country. They've got several, and in fact, you might have several of your favorite country stations, 2 or 3 that you bounce around. Same thing with hot AC or the contemporary stuff, contemporary AC. That's the stuff that you might have 2 or 3 radio stations in the market, and you're going to bounce around those. But notice, you're sticking with the format. Now, when it comes to TSL, if you want to go that route, and if it matches up with the demographic that you're looking for, I'm not saying just stick with these formats, period, end of story. I'm saying if it matches up with your demographic, if the description of these listeners lines up with the description of the people that buy the most from you, then you've got yourself a match. The top TSL formats are News Talk, Sports Talk, Classic Rock, and Contemporary Christian. People tend to put it on if they're interested in any one of those 4 formats. They'll put it on, they'll leave it on, and they'll walk away. They'll listen to it all day long. So when you're looking for TSL and you're looking for repetition for your commercial, TSL is the way to go. Those 4 formats are really stacking the deck in your favor. So when it comes to advertising for your business, B2B, B2C, whatever it is that you're doing. In fact, what we tend to go with are B2C businesses, especially small service businesses. Anything from coaches to agencies to consultants to financial planners, that kind of thing. If that works for you, that's what we do here. We cover all this kind of stuff here on this channel. So be sure to subscribe. I hope you're getting something out of this radio discussion. Be sure to like that. Hit the like button. Let me know. Make any comments down below, and I'll see if I can't cover some other stuff for you. Just let me know what you want to hear, and I will be glad to make a video about it. Radio can also be very, very cost effective. In fact, there are some times when you're going to have comparable numbers to television, comparable viewers to listeners, and the radio ad is going to be a lot less expensive, both when it comes to schedule and production costs. Now, here's a little sidebar for you, and I'm going to step on a few toes, and I'm going to make a couple people mad. There are a lot of times when a radio rep will come to you and say, "Oh, we include production in our cost. Production is free." No, it's not. Let me just say that right up front. No, it's not. It's just not a line item on your invoice. So I'm calling out radio stations. Stop saying production is free. It's not free. And before I go calling names, I'm just going to stop right there. So don't be saying production is free anymore. Just wipe that off the table, okay? It's to your advantage to quit saying it. Now, one thing I will say is, if there is a mistake, heaven forbid, we try to avoid all kinds of mistakes, any kind of mistakes when it comes to the copy, the production, the voiceover, the editing, whatever the case may be. And once it's produced, we want it to be perfect when it hits the air. We want it to be the way you want it once it hits the air. Sometimes there's a mistake. If the same is true for television, how long is it going to take to get that fixed? Heaven forbid you should have to call in the actors and reshoot a couple scenes or something like that if the script has changed. I mean, if it's something in the graphics or maybe a background picture or something like that, okay, we can edit that, on our own time, render it down, and then get it reloaded into the system. In a radio commercial, if something needs to be fixed or edited or changed or cut or modified, chances are there's a possibility that it could be corrected before the next time the ad plays. Now, that's not how we like to fly, but sometimes it's necessary. We try to avoid that as much as possible, but cost-effective wise and as far as emergency are concerned, you can have a corrected commercial on the air a lot faster than television. And one of my absolute favorites is theater of the mind, and that's basically giving a description in such a way that people not only picture what you're saying, but they also fill in the details and fill in the gaps in the story. For example, if you're advertising trucks, if it's a car dealer and they're advertising trucks, your favorite color might be blue, my favorite color might be red. If I'm picturing a red one and you're picturing a blue one, we're both right, and that's going to be a little something to work towards the advertiser's advantage. If you're picturing the blue truck because that's your favorite color, chances are you'll run down there as opposed to seeing the brown one or the yellow one or the red one in the TV ad that's, oh gosh, I hate that color. Well, you've pictured the blue one in the radio ad. Go get you one. Right? That's how theater of the mind works. Now, I also mentioned near the end, I would give you one quick test to see if radio advertising were for you. Here's a quick litmus test to really weed out the majority of whether it's right for you or not. You ready? Are you B2B or B2C? If you are a B2C situation, you're maybe even a brick and mortar store where the average Joe can walk in, buy what they want at your store and leave, whatever, if that's what you're selling, whatever it is you're selling, people can walk in, buy it and leave. This might be a really good option for you, whether it's a restaurant or even a convenience store, laundromats, dry cleaners, wedding, bridal shops. I mean, you name it. The average person can walk in, buy and leave, as long as you're not selling directly to other businesses. For example, and this just totally blows my mind every single year, every once in a while, somebody will run an ad for a company that makes conveyor belts. Not just conveyor belts, industrial conveyor belts. We're talking about the suckers that are really thick. They're like this wide and 2.5 miles long. That kind of conveyor belt. How many average Joes on the highway buy a conveyor belt in their lifetime? Very few. I would even venture to guess it might even be zero. Chances are it's zero. Companies buy them, but individuals do not. A B2B situation is not ideal for radio. I'm not going to say nobody B2B should be on the air. There might be one, but I can tell you right now, a good way for a B2B business to use radio, especially if you are in a hiring campaign. If you're running help wanted ads, if you've got several positions open for several different shifts or several different positions, radio would be great for you, especially that conveyor belt company. If they've got business openings, if they've got openings in their factory or installers or whatever the case may be, radio would be great. But if you're trying to sell conveyor belts over the radio, I don't think that's going to work for you. B2C versus B2B. That's a great way to tell. Start there. To get you started on the right foot, I have what I think is a pretty incredible radio advertising checklist. It's more than a checklist. It's actually a short ebook. It's a short book. Get yours. In the description down below, there's a link for the radio advertising checklist. Click on it, get your copy, and you will be walked through the entire process of brainstorming a commercial and then turning your notes into a commercial. And it'll make for a really good commercial if you follow it step by step. Much better than probably 95 to 98% of what's on the air right now. So go down there, click the link, and get yourself a copy of the radio advertising checklist. I'm Nic Natarella with Advertise Creative. Thank you for watching.